Alright, well, the time has come. It's been out long enough, and I've seen it more than once, unfortunately. Scream 7 is absolutely horrible. There's no nice way to put it. The only really cool thing about the movie is the opening scene, which everyone saw coming because it was all in the trailers. It was at the Airbnb, and comes and goes. Gale Weathers coming into the movie is absolutely useless, and her arc over the last few movies has been completely thrown against a wall. Uh, what the fuck are they name? Chad and Mindy offer no real help to the storyline. They're just kind of there, thrown away again. The movie makes multiple references to New York as if it's trying to apologize for the fact that the movie ever happened. And it's really sad because I actually think Scream 6 is one of the better ones in the franchise. The killer reveal at the end of 6, yes, was pretty damn dumb. But I believe Scream 6 did something that Scream 7 tried to do and did it much better. With Scream 6's inclusion of Kirby, which realistically, where the hell was she in Scream 7? Because she's supposed to be the FBI director going after Ghostface killings. Where was she in this one? It's not too far from New York if Sydney's in Indiana now. Trying to rely solely on nostalgia and baiting the Scream franchise fans community really goes to hell in a handbasket, truthfully. Because realistically, the first half hour of the movie is pretty watchable. It's got its good jump scares and moments. But the second the half hour mark goes, and once Gale Weathers comes in, it takes a gigantic nosedive down. The excuse me, the AI tactic in the movie is absolutely senseless. It comes off incredibly cliched and obvious after watching the first FaceTime call. Matt Lillard, God help him, he did his best with what was available, and I love the guy to death. He was one of the few okay things, but he was really chewing it up, truthfully, and I hate to say it. And I was one of the Stu's Not Dead defenders. But once it comes down to the killer reveals at the end, this was the absolute shittiest in the franchise. Absolutely abhorrent. It's an absolute throwaway. Okay, it's the neighbor of Sidney Prescott who misinterpreted her book, which was something that was kind of there and gone in Scream 4. No one ever remembers the goddamn book. And she allegedly was in an abusive relationship with her ex-husband. She murdered her husband, and in this movie she murders her son because, quote unquote, he was turning out just like his dad. And the other killer, you only saw both of these killers you only saw in the movie maybe collectively 2 minutes before the reveal, and even then, blah. The second killer was someone you saw in the movie for maybe a minute, given some bullshit exposition at Fallbrook Hospital, and his claim to fame with the Ghostface uh, name is, quote unquote, I used to work at Google and I did AI security. Okay. And what do you have to do with Sydney? What's the past history there and the connection there? It made no connection. And the whole thing of embrace your past, face your past, the past is coming to haunt you. You can only do that so much with Sidney Prescott, which is something that I really started to appreciate with 5 and 6. It was a change of pace. It was proof that you don't need Sidney Prescott in a franchise to be successful. And I wanted at least one more movie with the Carpenter sisters to get some kind of absolute closure. Whether Sam was going to be the official Ghostface at the end of the movie, from some of the reports I've seen, do I think that would have been great? Truthfully, kind of no. But I liked what Radio Silence was doing. Their writing was a hell of a lot better than this. Throwing AI into Scream 7, once you start looking at everything and the intense plot holes that came about it, looked like the script was written by AI. And the director of this movie was the guy who wrote 1, 2, and 4. Debatably the best written ones of the entire franchise. So you're thinking to yourself, what the hell happened here? The kills got intensely gory, which, I mean, I'm a gore whore. I love carnage candy. It's cool. But Ghostface is never really meant to be the absolute goriest person out there. Like, he's not known for slicing a high schooler open on a stage and disemboweling them, or shoving a knife through somebody's entire skull. Still one of the best kills in the movie, though. Or the absolutely stupid ass one of picking up the quote-unquote creepy kid and slamming his head on a beer tap, only for CG to take over the entire picture and have him look like some Looney Tunes ass cartoon, and horrible CGI beer comes spurting out of the mouth. I fail to understand where CG is necessary in a movie like this. And if you're trying to be gory for gore's sake, if you're trying to attack the meta commentary of people want more gore, people are gore porn hounds, cool. Address that. And then everything would have made a little bit more sense to the movie. But ultimately, when you had the killers you had and the motives you had, nothing made sense. What probably irritated me the most, outside of the very horrible killer reveals, is the new characters. You got no relation to them. You hold no conscious of affection to any of these characters. You have the boyfriend, you have the friend, you've got the black girl, and you've got creepy kid. I can't tell you any of their fucking names. They just are there as cannon fodder, and you immediately know, okay, this is just a body bag on the screen I'm seeing. There was a big throwaway red herring that the boyfriend was probably going to be it again, and truth be told, it would have been better than what we got, but where the boyfriend was studying a laptop, and he has a background in computer science, so he would understand how well an AI could operate. That was cool. But when they make it to the truck to try and get to Sydney, who's now doing an open interview with Gale, trying to bait out the Ghostface killer, she sees that the boyfriend had a recording of himself threatening Sidney Prescott. And it had a connection of where Stu's body took over him. Which is a plot hole that went nowhere, because you find out the boyfriend wasn't a part of it. His excuse was, I just wanted to see if it would really work. I'm like, okay, then why would you make death threats to Sydney and the family and all that other shit? Ugh. And again, no high stakes for any characters. You're in the 7th movie of the franchise, and you've had 2 movies straight to where legacy characters can come in and anyone's available to get got. Chad, still alive for some fucking reason, especially after how many times he got brutally stabbed in Scream 6, and he got again this one. Mindy, still alive. Sydney, obviously they're not going to kill her off, but at this point, we need to have something. Gale, still alive, and completely ditches Sydney in the 3rd act of the movie. Is nowhere to be found after the interview. and Sydney's husband, who gets stabbed multiple times in the garage and is left to bleed out while wrapped in plastic. Not only do you have little to no airflow because you're wrapped in plastic, you've been stabbed multiple times, so you're bleeding out. By the end of the movie, his shirt is completely fucking soaked in blood, so he's bleeding out through his bulletproof vest, he's bleeding out through his work gear, and he is completely soaked and bathed in his own blood. There's no way in hell, over the course of hours, when they made that attack on him, for him to still be alive. And if he did, how the hell is he still strong enough to secretly pull out a knife and untape Tatum from a chair? No. If you've got the ability to muster up the strength to do that, you could call for backup on a walkie-talkie or something, or call the station and let them track your phone to say, hey, something's wrong with the chief, let's go check out the house. And also, Pine Grove, Pine Tree, whatever the hell the name of the city was in Indiana. What is up with the police force? They've got less cops in their city than they did in Sonic the Hedgehog in Green Hills. They're importing a curfew and they're trying to issue this. Cool. There's no traffic on the streets. Everyone's at home. You're telling me when shit goes down and you've got this blonde girl screaming bloody murder that she's being killed, someone's after me, and you got Ghostface killers all over the place, you're telling me not one patrol car's all over the place? Nah, and it's a really small fucking town. No other cops were found to be anywhere. It was trope after failed trope after failed trope after neglect. And they pulled something that I did think was an okay thought, but wasn't fully fleshed out the way it should have been. Before the reveal and the final bit, they had another AI call pop up on the screens in Sydney's house. And it showed Stu again, but it also showed Billy's mother, which was actually really cool. That was a genuine surprise. And after Billy's mom, you got to see, Roman. And that was cool to see him again. I'm like, okay, the family connection, it's going to really kind of fuck with her. And then it fades to Dewey. I'm like, oh God, they got Dewey. And then as soon as I saw that, I'm like, well, if you had access to Dewey, why didn't you FaceTime as Dewey when you called her at the station? Because you had Gale Weathers right there, who's taking antidepressants and nerve medication after dealing with Scream 6, and she's still mourning the loss of Dewey. That would have got people on the entire case ready to whoop some ass. And then it just goes nowhere. And, okay, well, we're out back where it all started with a person duct taped to a chair in the backyard. Okay. And it's all connection to your past. It all goes back to where it started. These two people had no connection to Stu at all, or Billy, or the original kills, which makes burning down Stu Macher's house in Woodsboro, California fucking pointless. And these people are in Pine Grove, Indiana. So you're telling me they flew from Indiana to Woodsboro, California for a night, killed 2 people, lit the house on fire, then flew right back to Indiana and started doing this shit? Nah, I'm not buying any of this. This is stupid as fuck. The worst written Scream movie in the franchise. It has become incredibly hardcore letdown. If you wanted to go back to the past and embrace something, keep the AI narrative, because it is a meta commentary off the new shit that we've got going on. And I hate that this is coming out of my mouth, because I think Scream 4 is debatably the worst in the franchise until now. But Jill Roberts was never shot in the head. She was shot in the heart, or she was shot in the chest. And she got a defibrillator to the head. All things you could still kind of survive from. And where was Jill Roberts? In a fucking hospital. She was right there. You can't tell me it's not fully available to retcon that she's not dead. Especially when the original plan was her to come back in Scream 5 anyway. That would have fucked with her. still gone back to the past, had a connection to Stu and everyone else from the very beginning, and she could have spawned the cult of Ghostface thing that everyone else is trying to theorize that Stu would be in charge of, but I'm not buying that, because what did Jill Roberts want? She wanted fans, she wanted loyalty, she wanted a following. With as into serial killers and documentaries and slashers that we are in modern times, and it's even mentioned in the movie, bringing her back would have made a hell of a lot more sense. Because there's even a throwaway Ghostface killer that was hired to throw her off the track. I'm just saying, I don't like Jill Roberts as a Ghostface. I didn't care for Scream 4, but if you brought her back in that sense, everything would have made a hell of a lot more sense and been an ultimately better movie. Just my thoughts on that, though. It's my way of how I would have wrote the ending a little better. But yeah, y'all dropped the fucking ball, and y'all are making Scream 8, depending on how good it does this weekend, and it's already made a fuck ton of money, and it still will. And you're still moving on to Scream 8. At this point, she's going to be absolutely fucking rigor mortis by the time Scream 9 comes around. What connection to Sidney Prescott's past are you going to have at this point? Oh, 10, 15 years ago, I posted something on Twitter or Facebook, and Sydney's cat walked across the keyboard and accidentally disliked a photo of mine. We're at that point of grasping for straws, people. I didn't even remember Sidney Prescott wrote a book until this movie, because it was only in Scream 4 for, I don't know, 10 minutes. It wasn't uber important. Even if you did keep these killers, as horrible as they are, the blonde girl who killed her husband, if you went back to Scream 3 when Sidney was a help hotline operator under a different alias, and if I remember right, she was talking to someone who had an abusive husband and was trying to get out. If you threw it back to like, yeah, I called you all those years ago in California when you were a hotline representative, you were under a different name then, but I found out who you really were. You got me through a lot, and I interpreted it as, help yourself, look for help, and get your things out there, and I killed my husband. You helped free me. That would have made a hell of a lot more sense, and I would have bought that. But nah. Scream has been a fairly consistent franchise and one of my favorites in horror movie history. And it has just hit like a brick wall. I mean, you had such excellence with Kevin Williamson being able to direct something he made from the ground up. With the help of Wes Craven, yes, but ultimately it's his baby. He's the one that wrote the original script. He came up with the idea, came up with the characters, and to finally have it like this, to where now you're directing something, but you're directing someone else's writing, I think is just wrong. Ultimately, I went into a Scream movie and I barely left with a sigh. I was so mad and upset at how this movie played out. It needs to definitely fucking do better. And if Scream 8, 9, 10, or whatever happened, am I going to be there day one? Unfortunately, because it's still my favorite, one of my favorites in the entire horror history, and it's still getting recognition, unlike Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, which are stuck in legal loophole hells. We'll probably get another Michael Myers movie for some fucking reason. But yeah, ultimately worse than the franchise. And I used to hate Scream 4 so much. This is the worst in the franchise. 3 out of 10.